Hey, what are you doing up there, boy? You spying on these white people's business? Huh? Get back here!
Don't be fooled by this worn-out hat. Beneath it hides a sharp business mind. This little black boy named Bernard is a shoe-shining kid. But pay attention. He chooses to set up his spot right in front of the bank on purpose, so that his customers are all wealthy white people. He doesn't care about the small money he makes shining shoes. He works slowly so he can listen to the financial secrets white people talk about while they wait. As soon as they walk away, the little boy writes everything down in a notebook. All he really wants is the valuable financial knowledge he picks up from them. From a very young age, he knows that his lifelong dream is to become a banker. This is Texas in 1939, a place where black people are crushed by heavy discrimination.
Get back here!
His father sadly tells him that his dream is out of reach. But Bernard's eyes show determination against all odds. 15 years later, the grown-up boy moves to Los Angeles with his wife Eunice and their kids. The racial discrimination there is not as bad as back home, so he decides to build his business there. The family has to live in a rundown utility room at one of his relatives' place. Still, Bernard promises his wife they will move out soon. He starts out as a real estate agent and looks for houses for sale all over the city. Through careful observation, he notices that the black community in Los Angeles is packed and crowded, while the white areas still have plenty of empty homes. Black people have rental needs and the money to pay, but there is no market for them. This is a huge business opportunity in real estate and renting. He spots a white-owned apartment with weeds at the front door, clearly not in great shape. But only he sees the value of the house's location, sitting right next to the black neighborhood. He approaches the owner and says, "You've only rented out half the apartment, so why not sell it to me? I'll give you $30,000 now and another $5,000 once I fill all the rooms." Although the owner respects his thinking, he doesn't want to take the risk. Bernard shows his understanding and starts to leave. Then he quickly notices the owner's calendar, which shows it was given by a local bank manager. An idea pops into his head right away. He says goodbye to the owner and heads straight to the bank, where he finds the manager who sent that calendar. The manager's secretary, who looks down on black people, refuses to let him in. He waits for a few hours outside the bank, and when the manager walks out, he stops him right away. He says, "I know one of your top customers. The deal I'm working on will benefit him, and I'm hoping you can approve a loan for me." But the bank manager turns him down without even thinking it over. That night, he gets a call from the owner. The owner asks him, "Did you use my name to try to get a loan?" Bernard has no choice but to apologize. Surprisingly, the owner doesn't get angry. Instead, he admires Bernard's drive and refusal to quit until he reaches his goal. The owner agrees to back the loan for him, so Bernard gets his very first bank loan and buys the property. An old white woman has just come back from shopping when she spots a black man at her door. "What are you doing here?" she asks in a sharp tone. The black man calmly replies, "I'm fixing up the apartment building." The old lady snaps back with a nasty look, "Workers like you need to watch themselves." Bernard responds, "Don't worry, this is my building, and I will absolutely take good care of it." Left speechless, the old lady storms home, and the police show up shortly after. They tell Bernard that a woman called them and asked whether he lied about being the owner and talked back to her. Surprisingly, Bernard pulls out a copy of the property deed. It turns out he saw the trouble coming and came prepared. The officers realize the building truly belongs to him and leave looking embarrassed. That evening, Bernard goes back to the apartment building. The old lady at the entrance sees him and immediately tells him to leave since it's not renovation hours. Bernard replies calmly, "I'm not a renovation worker, I am the owner." The old lady is stunned, and a few days later she moves out in anger because she refuses to share a building with black people. The moment she leaves, Bernard rents her unit to a black woman. Sure enough, the black renter market is just as big as he predicted. The building fills up fast. Bernard pays the remaining amount to the former owner as agreed. The former owner is deeply impressed with Bernard and offers to go into business together. Bernard picks the properties and works out the numbers, while the old owner handles the deals and signs the contracts. All in front of white people who won't realize they're doing business with black men. They split the earnings, and Bernard happily agrees. The partnership runs very smoothly and they make a lot of money fast. Bernard moves his family from a small apartment into a proper mansion, giving them the good life they deserve. This is his way of thinking. When someone disrespects him, he doesn't strike back, because that would mean playing by their rules. He wants to play by his own rules. Being rational, smart, and making maximum profit, those are his main goals. But life doesn't always run smoothly and challenges can come out of nowhere. The former owner who partnered with Bernard grows old and sick, and dies suddenly a few years later. His share of the company goes to his wife. This woman strongly looks down on black people and wants nothing to do with Bernard. She arrogantly offers to buy Bernard's shares at a very low price, and if he refuses, she'll take him to court. In that era, when a white person and a black person go to court, who do you think the judge sides with? Bernard refuses to accept such unfair treatment and decides to fight in court. But he needs someone to testify and prove his business relationship with the old owner. He thinks of the bank manager, but the manager has already sided with the widow and keeps avoiding Bernard. Deeply let down, Bernard stands inside the bank and looks around. The clean and organized bank building quietly shows its pattern of discrimination everywhere. Just because of his skin color, he is constantly looked down on whenever he walks in. Thinking about all of this, a bold plan slowly begins to form in Bernard's mind. There are 4 banks inside one building, and every single one of them has shut its doors on this black man. In that moment, a brilliant idea hits him: I will buy this building, and let's see who dares to look down on me after that. So Bernard finds Joe, another black real estate developer in Los Angeles, and shares his plan. At first, Joe thinks he has lost his mind, because the building's price tag is extremely high and no black person has ever bought land in downtown LA. But after talking it through for a while, Joe sees that Bernard is not dreaming. He's a careful, logical thinker. Why does he want this building? Because once he owns it, the banks inside will have to serve him. They can't turn down his loan requests. They'll also have to share real estate trends with him, making his property business much easier. Joe is blown away by the idea, but after thinking it over, he believes it can actually work. Even though Joe is very wealthy, he still gets pushed around by white people everywhere he goes. If he can stand on top of white bankers in their own building, he will make even more money. However, they still can't deal with white people directly, so they need a white person to act as their front man. Bernard already has someone in mind, Matt, who has been helping him with renovations. This guy is a straight shooter, very ambitious, just a bit rough around the edges. So Bernard and Joe begin training Matt from the ground up, teaching him golf, upper-class manners, mathematical thinking, and real estate. Matt rises to the challenge and quickly gets very good at golf. While out on the course, he can work out real estate valuations just like a sharp young businessman. At a golf club, Matt meets the owner of the bank building, though of course this meeting was set up by Joe. The conversation goes well, and Matt gets the chance to move forward with buying the building. But Matt doesn't know how to handle the negotiation. No worries. Before the meeting, Bernard does all the groundwork. He counts the lights left on in the building after dark, figures out the vacancy rate, and works out the building's value based on its yearly income and running costs. Bernard puts together every number that might come up and has Matt memorize all of it before sitting down with the owner. As a result, no matter how much the big boss talks up his property, Matt is always one step ahead and fires back with the exact right number, leaving the owner stunned. Even the accountant sitting beside him is at a loss. They all think they are dealing with some kind of math genius and there's no tricking him. In the end, Bernard gets the building, originally listed at over $2.4 million, for just $1.56 million. From that point on, every time Bernard walks in or out of the building, the president of every bank inside comes out to shake his hand. The small-time manager who gave him such a hard time before can barely believe what he's seeing. With the backing of the banking world, Bernard and Joe's real estate careers take off fast. They single-handedly break down the strict racial zoning lines that divided Los Angeles, and many promising young black families start moving into white neighborhoods. They even get a meeting with the vice president. Several years later, in 1963, Bernard takes his family back to Texas to visit his father. Over dinner, his father tells Bernard how proud he is of everything he has achieved. The next morning, Bernard walks around town with his son. Before they know it, they find themselves standing in front of the very bank where Bernard used to shine shoes as a boy. Back then, Texas was one of the most racist places in America. They come across a young boy shining shoes, just like Bernard once did. To Bernard's surprise, the boy will only work on the shoes of white people. This small moment hits Bernard hard and stirs up his sense of responsibility toward his own community. He quietly makes up his mind that he has to change things and help the black community back home get access to better housing. The next day, Bernard goes to see Joe and tells him they should buy the main bank in Texas. Joe thinks Bernard has completely lost it. The racism in Texas is that severe. But Bernard lays out strong enough reasons to make the case, and in the end Joe agrees to help. They bring Matt back on board and use him as their front man once more. They sit down with the bank owner, Robert Florence Sr. and Jr., to go over the numbers. Despite Florence Jr.'s doubts, Sr. sells the bank to Matt and his partners. With the mainland bank now in their hands, Bernard gets to work and starts helping black Americans in town get approved for loans. It seems like Bernard's real goal is to give his people a fair shot at housing and financial opportunity. Things move along well for a while, until Florence Jr. starts digging into the loans their bank is approving. One day, Florence follows Matt and ends up face to face with Bernard and Joe. He confronts them about the approved loans and threatens them with a letter from the U.S. Treasury Department, saying the department will come in to review the bank's operations in 1 month. As Florence Jr. walks out, the group sits down to figure out their next steps. During that time, Matt comes up with a suggestion: buy another bank and move the problem loans from mainland over to that one. They talk about picking up the bank of Marlon Moore. Bernard points out that the main issue is who will oversee the new bank's operations. Matt suggests that he be the one to run it. Bernard feels uneasy about the idea, but eventually agrees, as long as Eunice keeps a close watch on Matt. In the end, Matt gets to run the bank just like he wanted. The next day, Matt meets with a lawyer and begins signing loan contracts. Sometime later, Matt gets a call from Florence Jr. about customers who want to pull all their money out of mainland. On top of that, a federal bank examiner arrives at Marlon. To get close during the inspection, Bernard forces himself to dress up as a janitor. Unfortunately, it doesn't help. The examiner spots a serious problem with several of the loans. Bernard can't believe such questionable loans ever got approved. Eventually they find out it was Florence Jr.'s doing the whole time. It turns out that while Matt was rushing to get his bank up and running, he skipped proper steps and used a lawyer that Florence had recommended. Through that lawyer, Florence was able to sneak the bad loans in. Sometime later, Bernard and Joe tell Matt that the smartest move they can make is to walk away from the bank of Marlon. Unwilling to let his bank go, Matt makes a move without telling his partners. Joe finds out the next day and rushes to mainland bank with Bernard. They confront Matt about the loans while Florence watches the whole thing with a satisfied look on his face. Bernard tells Matt to bring their records, but it's already too late. The federal bank examiners move in to shut down mainland bank's license to operate. As they walk out of the building, the FBI arrests Bernard and Joe. Bernard tries to hold his ground, but it's a losing battle. Sometime later, Bernard and Joe sit down with their lawyer. They find out their case has gotten mixed up with the racial politics playing out across the country. Meanwhile, Matt meets with Senator Mullen, who offers him a deal: testify against his partners in exchange for his freedom. That night, Matt thinks long and hard about what to do, then makes a phone call. The following day, Matt takes Mullen's offer and testifies against his partners at the Senate hearing. Later that same day, Bernard also meets with Mullen and hears out his proposal. Mullen gives him a choice: take an immunity deal and back up Matt's testimony, or say whatever he wants and go to prison. In the end, Bernard chooses to speak the words he has held inside for years. He stands up and talks openly about racial discrimination in the country. Shortly after, both Bernard and Joe lose almost everything they have built. The two men are also sent to federal prison. Florence Jr. picks up the mainland bank for a fraction of what Bernard and Joe originally paid. Meanwhile, Matt Steiner walks away without facing a single charge. Several years later, Bernard and Joe get out of prison. Eunice finds it strange that both men seem almost happy, even after losing everything. But that's not the full picture. Joe reveals that they both own properties sitting right next to each other in the Bahamas. Eunice can't believe it and asks Bernard how that happened. It turns out that the phone call Matt made the night before his testimony was to Bernard. He told Bernard about the senator's deal and apologized to him. In return, Bernard asked Matt for one favor, and before the government could seize their assets, that favor was done. The movie wraps up as we learn that Bernard and Joe's residential properties played a key role in the fight against housing segregation in LA, and the two men still own two mansions sitting side by side in the Bahamas. If you enjoyed this recap of The Banker, do us a quick favor: hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It only takes a second, but it means everything to us. More stories like this are coming, so make sure you don't miss out. We'll see you in the next one.